Hey everybody! In this month's gel press video, I'm going to show you the most amazing transfer on plate collage technique. I think when everybody sits down to do magazine collage, what they look for is they look for faces. So today we're not going to be about the faces. I'm going to show you the wonders of the whole magazine transfer resist in a few different ways, starting with one of these China marking pencils that I just wrote 2021 on. It functions the same way as the ink on a magazine page, and it will act as a resist, and there are a couple different ways you can do this. Now, I wanted to see if I could do a crayon rubbing with a stamp that would have enough crayon on it to resist the ink the way a magazine transfer does. So if you're having a hard time finding magazines that work for your technique, you can use these China markers, you can use crayons, you can use different things. So I just did a rubbing of this super fun skull stamp, and I'm just going to test this and see if this works. You want a pretty thin layer of paint when you are doing any type of magazine resist. You'll see later in the video I use too much paint once or twice and it just won't work. So I'm putting this down and I'm going to lift it and see if there's anything left on the plate, and there's not. So there's not enough crayon wax to make a resist when you do a rubbing. You would have to directly color with the crayons, but you can see that the China marker worked great and it transferred my 2021 onto the plate. So now I'll add just a little bit of gray ink and we'll do this sort of piecemeal collage on the plate. I love this because you can design the entire layout piece by piece, so I just work in small areas at a time. You can do just mark making with the China markers, and you can achieve the same effect, and it'll all be a cohesive part of your little collage when you're done. So I will put this down, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Those marks are beautifully transferred to the plate. So it's just a different way to think about collaging different elements, and I really, really enjoy this. So I'm going to tell you to forget about the face and do some fun things with text and do some fun things with mark making tools and just see what you get. Now, another thing I realized when I was doing this, and I used all Dina Wakley paints for this technique, another thing that I realized is I needed to lift the magazine pages up quickly, not let them sit on a plate for a really long time. And you'll see some examples of what I mean in just a bit. Now, I use a little hand dryer to dry my layers before I lift them. This is my favorite I'm not feeling patient today method. So I highly recommend one of these. This one seems to blow more air than a few others that I've had. I will put a link to this below in the description. So once that's dry, you can lift this print or you can add more texture. It's completely up to you. I really liked this leopard skin type pattern, and I wanted to see if I could transfer a little bit of that onto the plate as well. Now, I find that using different colors is super fun. You're going to see 3 different colors of finished prints, but I'm also going back and forth between gray and black for the transfer process. So I love that little leopard spot that got added. I did dry that. I cut that part out. That's some pretty boring video. But now I'm just adding some turquoise paint to lift this with. And remember, lift layers are always thin layers, so make sure you put a nice thin layer down. Now I will lift this. This is the pre-cut paper from the Tailored Expressions gel printing kit. I love having my paper pre-cut. I do not enjoy time spent at the paper cutter. So I'm pulling this off, and you can see I have a full-on collage. I have some images. I have my little 2021 sort of in the background. I have a nice quote. It's just such a fun process. So but I know that we all gravitate towards those dramatic faces, and I do too, but I love text. Text is one of my favorite collage elements to work with. So I will lift this up. Now I have a little person here. This is like a great size. This can also help you use some of those smaller human images, if you like, from magazines by collaging them together like this. I do like to blot around the edge of whatever it is I'm collaging just so there's not a harsh line. So here's one of the times that I sort of left it on the plate too long and it didn't transfer all that text. You'll see that a few times. But I don't like to cut those out because I want you to know what it's really like to experience this process and sort of experiment and lose that expectation of having it be perfect every time. That's just probably not going to happen. Oh, I have an inspector that arrived unexpectedly, inspected my work, and what that led to is none of that text transferring because the magazine page was down on the plate too long. So thank you, Inspector Splotchy, for helping me make my point about the amount of time that you leave your magazine page on the plate. This is also a way to sort of recycle those parts of the magazine that you weren't necessarily using for gel printing. I don't subscribe to a lot of magazines, so when I get them, I usually get them specifically for the purpose of gel printing. And so using the whole magazine is really important to me because I don't want to be wasteful. I do a lot of different kinds of collage. I actually have a collage workshop coming up where you're doing the physical act of collage. And so all those little bits of these magazine pages get used up, and I just feel better about that. Orange print, this one is so beautiful. There's just kind of a different quality that you get when you're adding several different images and text together all over one of these prints. I just think it's so layered and deep and interesting. I love that little question mark Joker style pattern on that shirt. That's why I picked that one out. So I'm really happy that it transferred really well. On the left, that one looks like a landscape a little bit to me with that strong horizontal line. So now we will start this again. I will put dark paint down. This is actually a dark blue paint. That works just as well. I do like alternating the colors though. That's kind of my thing. So I got a good image transfer here, but I forgot to blot around there. So I'm just going to take a piece of copy paper and get that extra paint up off my plate. So now that leaves my image. It's beautiful. And I have a nice big piece of text that I can add. And remember, the text gets reversed twice, which means it comes back to its original orientation. So you don't have to worry that it'll be reversed. That's one of the great things about magazine printing. Now this one I left down just a little bit too long, and you can sort of see it because you can see that not all the paint is coming up when I blot. So be mindful of that. But like I said at the beginning, too much paint is not going to transfer very well. So you will see that I had way too much paint down on that. I should have kind of blotted that off. And so that didn't transfer very well. So we will start again. This one is going to be a very neutral palette, even though I have blue and black and gray for my transfer paints. I'm going to do a neutral background. I love this big bold text. And in fashion magazines, you'll see that quite a bit. So I'll be pulling this with a gray print. And this one probably ended up being my favorite. To me, it has the look of newsprint about it, which I could not love more. It just looks like a newspaper from World War II or some time gone by, and I think it's really, really neat and dramatic. I will pull that up, and you can see how cleanly these pull. Your gel press is completely clean after every pull, but look at that bold text element. Tiny, very tiny detailed text there on the left, text at the top mixed in with a couple of human images. And I just cannot stop doing these. I think they are so much fun. You get such a big variety. And I think that maybe the kind of imperfect results that you can get when doing magazine transfers, this makes it a little bit more manageable and more exciting to do. Head over to my blog for more information, and thanks so much for watching.